Look at just how do you find the critical values for a confidence interval. We're not going to actually find the confidence interval yet, just finding the critical values. So they're going to need to give me an n and a confidence level. And I'm going to start by drawing my picture. So my picture, I'm going to, again, when I'm dealing with chi-squareds, I'm going to get used to drawing my picture with a set of axes to remind me that my graph starts at 0 here. So, and again, a lot of the graph is usually weighted on the left-hand side, so I'm going to do something like this, and it does continue on forever. Now, what is the same as everything before is if I'm trying to find a chi-squared on the left, I'll put a little L for left, and a chi-squared here on the right, remember that your level of confidence, your 95% goes where? Just like before, it's going to go in the middle of your two ends. So that's not going to change. So your 95%, your 0.95 is going to go in the middle. And just like before, all your area has to add up to what? 1 or 100%. So what does that mean about my two ends here? Well, it means that both ends together are going to be the rest, everything else, which will be the 1 minus the 0.95. Together, that gives that both ends together are 0.05. But that's both of them. What does that mean about each one individually then? Well, it means that each one individually is going to have to be half that. So 0.05 divided by 2. This means that each end will be 0.025 individually. Now, how do we use this to find the critical values? Well, remember that the critical values here for the chi-squared require an area to the right. So the one on the right is actually going to be the easiest to find, and you already have the area in that one tail on the right. It's a 0.025. So let's go to our table and take a look at how we're going to find this critical value for an area to the right of 0.25. So what we'll do is we've got our area to the right of our critical value of 0.025, and we've got our n, which was, 20, which means our degrees of freedom, our df, is n minus 1, which is 20 minus 1, which is going to be 19. So we'll take our 19 here and our 0.025, and we'll figure out where we overlap. And where we overlap is at the value, chi-squared value 32.852. That's going to be our chi-squared on the right that we've got on our picture, is going to be the 32.852. So that's our chi-squared on the right. So next, let's find the chi-squared on the left. Again, to find that value, we need an area to the right. But this time, that means I need to take the 0.95 and the 0.025 and take those two and add them up. So if I take the 0.95 and add the 0.025, I get a 0.975 as an area to the right for my chi-squared on the left. So let's take a look at our table again. So I need to use the 0.975 as your area to the right. My degrees of freedom won't change, so I still need to just figure out where this is going to hit my degrees of freedom, which happens at a chi-squared value of 8.907. 8.907. So that will be my chi-squared on the left, and that will be my second critical value that I'll end up using when I do end up making my confidence interval. So each time I'm making my confidence interval, I'm going to need to do this. Find both critical values, a left side and a right side. We'll call them left-tailed and right-tailed. Let's try finding the chi-squared on the left and the chi-squared on the right one more time. So let's first start by drawing our picture. Remember, our picture, we're going to start by drawing our axes because the chi-squared charts or tables here, they always start at 0. So I can draw my skewed graph. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it should start at 0 and kind of be skewed on the left. And I'm going to be trying to find a chi-squared on the left and a chi-squared on the right. And then my 90% is my confidence level that will go in between my two critical values. So I can go ahead and put my 0.90 or my 90% in the middle. Notice then, though, that means is that what's between the other two tails is everything else. Because remember, all the area has to add up to 1. So that means the other two tails together have to be the other 1 minus the 90 or 0.90%, which will give me 0.10 as my area between both of those tails. Then the question is, what's going to be each tail individually? Well, then I need to take the 0.10 and divide it by 2, split it among the two tails because they should still have the same area. So that means that each tail is going to have half of that, which is 0.05 or 5% of the area in the tails. Now, how do I find my chi-squareds? Well, the easiest one is always going to be the one on the right because the chi-squared table gives an area to the right. So let's start there. So notice this chi-squared right has an area to the right of 0.05. So we'll start there. It has an area to the right of 0.05. So if we go to our table, we're going to start there with the area to the right of 0.05. And then our degrees of freedom on our table, well, our n was 51. So our degrees of freedom, our n minus 1 is going to be our 51 minus 1, which will give us 50. So we'll use our degrees of freedom of 50, and we need to figure out where those two overlap. So let's carry them both over. And notice that they overlap at a chi-squared value of 67.505. And that is going to be our chi-squared on the right. That's a really large value, but we're going to get used to seeing really large values. 67.505 is again our chi-squared on the right. That's 1 out of 2. So we're halfway there. To get the other chi-squared, the chi-squared on the right, we need its area to the right. So we've got a chi-squared on the left here. We want to get its area to the right, which is going to be the 0.90 and the 0.05 added up. So the 0.90 added to the 0.05 will give me 0.95 as its area to the right. So when I go to my table, I'm going to use the same degrees of freedom, but my area to the right is going to be 0.95. So my critical value on the left is going to be a little bit smaller than it's going to be the 34.764. So that's going to be my chi-squared on the left is this 34.764. So that's my chi-squared on the left. Again, I'm going to use both critical values, the chi-squared on the left and the chi-squared on the right when I do make my confidence interval. This is just the kind of the behind the scenes part that I'm going to need to actually build my confidence interval. So let's